Hello people and welcome to the 10th tutorial for Java for beginners. In the last tutorial we saw the relational operators, and in this tutorial we're going to cover logical operators. So let's get going. Okay, in if statement we have seen that the if statement checks a particular condition, and based on the validity of that condition it executes a certain block of code. We have seen like this: if check equals 10, then do something; if not, else do something. But actually the thing is, here we are checking only one condition under if, but we have the luxury of checking multiple conditions in one if statement, and based on the validity of both at the same time, or validity of one at a particular time, a certain block of code is executed. This is actually achieved with the help of logical operators. Let's see what logical operators are. Logical operators are AND operator and OR operator. AND operator is simply given by ampersand sign, and OR operator is shown by this sign. This is what shift plus a key under your backspace. Okay, so how do we actually use them? Say I have an if statement. Let me first declare two variables based on which we would check two conditions in one if statement. Say that be int a equals 10 and int b equals 14. Say I want to check two conditions in one if statement, and there's a certain block of code within if statement that I want to execute only and only if the values of a and b are 10 and 14. Okay, so how would I write that? If a equals 10, let me zoom in for you guys. Yeah, that's better. If a equals 10, ampersand, that means and I'll tell you guys why actually do we use two ampersand signs here. It has its own meaning, but just bear with me when I say that we use two ampersand signs at the moment. If a equals 10 and b equals 14, only then I want to print system print line you are good to go. Now say say if any of these statements turn out to be false, say if a had not been equal to 10 or b had not been equal to 14, if any of these two conditions had turned out to be false, then this complete block of code would have not been run. This would have been false. The condition of if would have been false, and once the condition of if is false, you know what happens: else executes. Yeah, so this is what actually AND logical operator does. Oops, missed an equal sign there. Yeah, it checks whether both of the conditions given in the if statement are true or not. It makes the if statement condition true only if both of the conditions within the if statement are true. If any of the conditions in the if statement turns out to be false, then this complete statement becomes false and it does not run, and instead of that, else statement gets executed. So this is what logical operator does. It works only and only when both of the conditions passed in the if statement are found to be true. But that's not okay. First let me show you how to run this. And if you run this, you see that now both are true, since a equals to 10 and b equals 14. Yeah, you're good to go. You can see right there, you're good to go, since both conditions were true. Now what if I make any one of these conditions to be false? Say I change b to 15. Now only one of the condition is true, not the both. So in that case, if what AND logical operator would do, since either of these is false, it would make the complete if statement false, and since if statement is false, else should be executed. Now let's run this program. Okay, you are not allowed. And why does that happen? Because one of these conditions, that is b equals 14, is false, and this is how AND logical operator does its job. Now the other logical operator is OR logical operator. What it does, it checks all the conditions. If either of the conditions provided with an if statement is found to be true, it passes the if statement as a true condition. That means if either of the conditions is found to be true, if statement is considered as true. That means if statement would run. Now let me change these to RR, and let me revive b to 14. Now in this case both are found to be true. Oops, sorry for that. Both conditions are found to be true. Since both are true, the output would be true. That means if statement would run. You see, you're good to go. What if one of these is false? Let's make b 15 again, and we'd found out that now only one statement out of these is true, and the second statement is false. And now if you run the program, still the if statement runs. That means if statement is true overall. You're good to go. And why does that happen? This is the job of OR logical operator. What it does, it checks the conditions passed with an if, and if either of the conditions is found out to be true, it makes complete if statement as true. So if statement gets executed. That is the basic difference between OR statement, OR logical operator, and AND logical operator. AND logical operator checks for the validity of both the conditions, and only if both the conditions are found out to be true, it allows if statement to be executed. But in case of OR logical operator, it checks the conditions of both statements, but if either of the conditions is found to be true, it allows if statement to get executed. Now this is the basic difference between OR logical operator and AND logical operator. Now the question arrives, why do we use these two and why not a single one? The simple answer to that question is, When you use two, they are known as short circuit logical operators, and it is always advisable to use two of these. Two of these or two of these. They are known as short circuit logical operators when you use two. Of course, if you use single, the program would execute and it would do just fine, but there are some flaws in that. If I use only single logical operator, what it would do, it would check both the conditions even if the first condition is false, but I don't want to do that since AND operator only works when both the conditions are true. So if I use single AND operator here, it would check second condition even if the first condition has already been found out to be false, but I do not want that, because what might happen sometimes if I use single operator, and there might be something like if A is not equals to 0 and B divided by A is greater than 10. Now if I use single operator here and in any case my A turns out to be 0, my A turns out to be 0, then also this condition would run, and if this condition runs, then you would see that B divided by 0 would give me an exception. We will talk about exception handling in later tutorials, but bear with me when I say that it is not good if you divide something by 0. It is not determined, so the program gives an exception in the runtime. So that is why we don't use single AND operator. If I use double AND operators, that means short circuit logical AND, what it would do, if this is found to be 0, it would not bother to even execute or check for this condition. So that would save me a lot of trouble. So that is why we use two signs, that is two AND operators and two OR operators. And those two operators, when we use them in a pair, that they are known as short circuit logical operators. Remember that term, it's quite frequently asked. So that sums up logical operators overall, and I'll see you in next tutorial, guys. If you still have any questions, feel free to ask, comment your questions down below, and I'll be more than happy to help. Now I'll see you in the next tutorial. Till then, bye bye.